You can't have your own agenda and thoughts all the time. You have to be so open to listening because no person can be an expert in all content areas. 100%. So you have to listen, learn. And so I really think maybe in your guys' situation, it might even be where that background in psychology is your passion and love, but then your way of making money doesn't need to be in the same field, right? And then you can use that passion and love in a way that's not going to stress you out. Like, oh, it's not bringing in money. Like, you need to be able to sustain your family, but you also need to be passionate about the things that you care about.
100%. Welcome to the Deals and Aloha podcast. I am super honored today because we are deviating a little bit from normal programming, and we have a very special guest on. I'm going to let my wife introduce her, but please follow us, share this podcast. You can find us on all social media platforms at Kamohai and Tristyn. Let's go.
Let's go. So today we are honored and blessed to have Andria Tupola, District 1 Council Member, Ph.D., all the cool things, community servant. And I'm just interested in getting to know your story, what you're currently working on, like all the things. So we are going off script today, and we're just going with the flow.
Love it.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, no problem. Excited.
I know. Okay, so I usually ask, how did you get into real estate? But in this case,
you're like,
I can still answer that question.
Okay. Yeah, right? You kind of are.
Because I did buy a house, and it was like, how in the world did we do this?
Exactly.
I would love to get into that too. But how did you get to where you are today, being in the political sphere and a council member? You ran for governor before, which I voted for you.
Oh,
yeah, so did I.
But take us back to the beginning. How did you get here?
Yeah, well, I did a mission for my church in Venezuela. And so when I lived there, I was 23. It was a very eye-opening experience. Living out of the country, period, is an eye-opening experience. But living in Venezuela, where there was so much political unrest, I really just didn't understand a lot of it. So when I was there, I didn't understand how the government played a role. But then the longer I lived there, the more I was like, whoa, a lot of the decisions and the mindset and the thoughts that you're having is because the government gave you these thoughts.
Yeah.
Oh,
so they give free education, they give free medical, they give free housing to the lowest socioeconomic class.
Okay.
Which ultimately at the end just basically makes you dependent on the government, but it also disincentivizes work because you don't want to do that because the harder you work, the more is taken from you. So a lot of the upper class citizens of Venezuela didn't want to work any harder. So they kind of just, stayed in the middle class because there was this really severe political sway that was happening there. And so when I came back from Venezuela, my main goal was to try to empower communities, to try to stay free from this, we need to depend on the government mindset. I just thought that it was toxic. I saw how it didn't just affect neighborhoods and states, but the whole entire country. Friends of mine that I met there have exiled out of that country and are trying to establish a life here. So I came back feeling very grateful that we don't have all of that political unrest. I mean, there's a heavy amount of civil disobedience, all the laws are suggestions, and that type of mindset really takes you into a whole unsafe, unstable place. So I wanted that feeling to kind of drive me to never have that again, but always to empower myself, my family, my community, to see if we can be self-reliant, self-sufficient, that we can do things for ourselves. So it kind of started there. And then in 2012, I campaigned for a presidential candidate. He didn't win. And then in 2013, people were like, you should run for office. I was like what? PTA? Where's the people at? My kids were 2 and 3.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. So it was difficult because I didn't really understand how I would fit in all of that equation. But I did pray on it. I did have quite a few experiences that led me there. And then I ran in 2014 for my first time and won my first time.
Wow, that's so crazy. So was it something like when you were growing up, you're like, yes, this is what I want to do?
No.
Not at all. It was
all.
through the experiences that you had that just led you there.
Yes. I really wanted to be a music teacher. My mom's a music teacher. I have a PhD in music. I direct choirs. Even my husband was like, what in the world are you doing? And my mom was like, why would you go to school for so long just to not use your degree? I was like, I don't know.
So crazy.
But I would argue I still use my degree every day. I listen to voices, whether irritating or loud.
There you go.
I'm like, shh.
That's so funny.
You speak louder.
That's so crazy. You're orchestrating. You're still the conductor, right? That's awesome. So I think that's a good point though, right? Like I think a lot of times people feel like they're being pushed into a certain direction or have to do something. But it's good to just remember that life gives you signs and
True.
you take those signs and then you just go with that path. You know what I mean? Like being open to whatever your environment gives you. And I love that you ended up where you ended up.
I agree. And I feel like a lot of the times we go to school, I went to school to become a psychologist. My background is in psychology and counseling, licensed mental health counselor and stuff like that. And it's still a passion of mine. And I still went in that direction. But when I found another calling like real estate, I just like dove all in. So like you kind of have to be adaptable, right? To kind of walk into your true calling and your true passion, I feel like.
But I'm sure you still use your background in psychology.
Absolutely.
Like, and that's the thing is like, I don't feel any career that anyone's previously have are all of a sudden for nothing. I think
Yeah.
you build upon that. And I think people are always afraid to like lose who they are, but it actually helps you become more of who you are, I would argue.
100%.
So like, I couldn't, speak Spanish. Now I speak Spanish fluently. Did it change me as a Hawaiian? Like, no, I can speak Hawaiian, I speak English, I speak Spanish. Like,
Yeah.
it's okay. My husband speaks Tongan. We go to a Samoan church. Like,
Yeah.
but then I realized that it gives you depth and breadth, right?
Yes.
And that it's not like a detachment. Because at first when I lived away, because I lived in Utah for like 10 years, I felt like when people would ask me to like sing in Italian and German, I was like, oh, you were telling me to be not a Hawaiian. And that's not the case though, right?
100%.
Right.
It's not the case that if you do these other things that maybe Native Hawaiians don't do, that all of a sudden you're not Hawaiian. Like, so I think it was for me like this really big idea of like, who am I and how can I be more of that?
I agree wholeheartedly. And yeah, I mean, I use my degree even more so now than before, you know? And I found now that I am in a place in our life where I want to combine the two. Because mental health and substance abuse and all of that genre of work in the nonprofit sector is always going to be there for me. It's always a passion. And then I have real estate and it's like, how can I put the two together? So I'm on a mission right now on how I can put the two together.
Well, it's funny how it works sometimes. Like the new path that you're on complements your old skill set, but then sometimes it allows you to even do it better.
Oh, I would agree.
And to have more
Yeah.
resources to then revisit and then do that even better. You know what I mean?
It's funny too, because he says all the time, because he's from a counseling background. So he's like, I use my counseling background so much when I'm dealing with all these distressed sellers and people that need help, because that's when it comes into play. You know, you have to be able to listen. You have to be able to connect. And so
I want to double down on listening
Yes.
because I think that that's one of the biggest things I use all the time from my music degree is listening. And I think that that's really important as somebody who's a public servant is like, you can't have your own agenda and thoughts all the time. You have to be so open to listening because no person can be an expert in all content areas. So you have
100%.
to listen, learn. And so I really think maybe in your guys' situation, it might even be where that background in psychology is your passion and love, but then your way of making money doesn't need to be in the same field, right? And then you can use that passion and love in a way that's not going to stress you out. Like, oh, it's not bringing in money. Like,
Yeah.
you need to be able to sustain your family, but you also need to be passionate about the things that you care about.
yeah.
100%. And I'm a firm believer because you hear that all the time. Do what you love, right? And I agree with that. Like my wish is with what we're doing now is to create a life where my children don't have to do something that they don't necessarily want to do to survive, that they can do something that they're super passionate about. I think when you are able to find the passion in whatever you're doing, and that's what I think is also a misconception. Like people think that they have to do something and they're going to be miserable at whatever they're doing. But if you look deep inside of what you do, there's pieces in there that can bring you passion. You just have to specifically hunt those things out, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I agree with what you said, you know, becoming more of who you are and really asking yourself who you are. And I think there's a lack of that in today's society. Like people aren't genuinely able to dig deep and peel all those layers of the onion to figure out what they really enjoy, who they are, what makes them tick. And it goes back to what you said with the Venezuela thing of like, we're ingrained, we're taught certain things, and it starts at a young age, you know?
Well, and I think today, if you feel inspired by anything they're saying or I'm saying, it doesn't mean that you need to be in our career field, right? So every time I speak, people are like, should I run for office? I'm like, holy smokes. No, not everybody should run for office because like it's a super grueling path to be on.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that it's better or worse. I'm just saying find your calling, find your purpose, because you can be an inspirational teacher. And I think if you're living with purpose, no matter what field you're in, you're going to be impacting lives, which indefinitely helps you to feel that I'm giving back. I feel full.
Fulfilled.
Yeah, I feel fulfilled.
Like your cup is
Totally.
running over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you say to somebody that's like, how do I find my calling? How do I find my purpose? You know what I mean? Because I feel like there's, like I said, a lack of that. People just don't even know.
Well, I guess my personal opinion is turn outwards. You know, I think if you're not finding ways to share your gifts and talents with others, then what are they for? Right? So like I play piano, I sing. When people ask me, play at a funeral, I don't go, oh, I'm so busy. I'm like, sure, yeah, I'll play at the funeral. People are like, oh, can you sing the national anthem to open this thing? Yeah, sure, awesome, I can do it. But it's not because I want to showcase myself. It's because these gifts and talents were not meant for me. So if I have something that I can give that will benefit others, then I will give it.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
But I think that's how you find your purpose, right? Is you're like, as I give, where do I feel like my
Alive.
gifts are received?
Yeah,
They have been received here because
Yeah.
I was able to give where no one else was.
I love that answer so much because a lot of the times, you know, going back to my counseling days, it's like when you're so stuck and stressed and feeling turmoil, the best thing you can do is to get out of self and pour into other people because it gives you so much clarity when you need it, you know, because a lot of times when we're spinning in our brain up here, if you go out, you're able to get reprieve. You're able to get clarity that you couldn't otherwise get. So I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, 100%. So you ran for office the first time.
And you won.
Oh yeah, that was a trip.
Was it everything you thought it was going to be?
Oh no.
What
No.
happened next?
So tell us about that.
I'm the girl that's like, I'm gonna take this place over. Yeah, I always think like I can do everything. In my head, I can do everything.
Yeah.
So when I got to the Capitol, I had like closed up my little office at Leeward Community College. I was like, I'm on my way to the Capitol.
Yeah.
I got there, my very first meeting, people are like screaming and swearing at each other, and I was like, whoa, where am I?
What is going on?
For?
Which I guess is like normal, but I
Yeah.
came from the land of rainbows and strawberries, and I was like, what is this where everyone is not nice?
Yeah.
It was eye-opening, but more than that, it was like, how do I survive in this place that, one, I don't feel like I'm like anybody. Two, I feel like my energy is different than everyone. Three, it seems like no one wants me here. My community does, but that's not where I work every day. I work at the
Here.
Capitol,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So it was a push and pull, you know, because I had to really figure out, this is my purpose. I was called to do this. Even though I don't like being in here all the time, what do I like? And
Right.
so I did like serving. So every time I had a chance, you know, we'd do a cleanup. I'd do the Young Women's Prom event. I'd paint a mural. I did all kinds of projects for my community. And a lot of it was because I wanted to make a direct impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like voting on things at the Capitol was important, however, not as impactful when you're talking to people in food land who are like, what have you been up to?
Right,
Yeah.
right,
They're not
right,
like,
right.
what bill are you voting
Yeah.
on?
Yeah.
They're like, how's that sidewalk?
Yeah.
How about the light?
Yeah.
Like,
Things they can see.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I started to kind of find a way to balance it, still be in office while being a public servant, right? And so I think that's what gave me that, okay, I can do this again. So I ran again in 2016. I won. And then after that, I was like, how much more of this can I handle? I was like, because this is super hard. You know,
Yeah.
76 people at the Capitol, 51 are representatives, 26 are senators. I have one little small tiny voice. And I was like, oh no, this is going good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, I don't really have a team. We have losing players. We don't have a bench. We don't have depth. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, what do I do?
Right.
Yeah.
So I decided to run for governor, which is not the, the most common thing to do. I was like, da-da-da-da-da. Let's run for governor.
Go big or go home.
Exactly. Yeah. I was like, I can't stand this place. Let's take it to the top.
Yeah.
I
love
okay, that was like,
mentality, though.
yeah, but that was like a super. I mean, I would never redo my decision, but I had no idea what I was jumping into. You know, I was
Yeah.
37. My kids are still like middle school, elementary,
Yeah.
and it just took everything out of my whole being to do it. Like
I'm sure.
everything.
Yeah.
We raised $500,000. We were trying to be in every community. I had to manage people and money and like
It's a lot.
debates and yeah, so it was a good experience for me, growing experience, but I did have a purpose.
Yeah.
A big purpose of why I did it is I wanted more people to believe they could. Because I was convinced that I could find more team members, but that the only way I could find team members was to be a better example. Stand up and be an example of a leader, see if people will gravitate towards that energy and come and run for office. So a lot of people did after that, and I was like, okay, all right, this, we're slowly getting there. So
Yeah.
I don't regret it, but it was a huge undertaking.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. There's some things I want to unpack there. You talked about, feeling like you weren't, like you didn't have the same energy as the people that were in the building, that you necessarily didn't belong in that building. That I would consider adversity and very stressful. And you had people basically not opposed, but like just had different viewpoints than you. How did you overcome that? Because that can get really demeaning and hard to keep pushing forward. Like, so what are some of the things, and life can do that to you, not even like a specific situation, but life is hard. So what are some things that you do to help you remain positive, help you not give up, help you find common ground with people that you oppose? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, at the Capitol, it's hard because a lot of people feel timid to speak up. My thought was I ran for office to speak up.
Right.
So I was confused. Why are we not speaking up?
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, wait, so we're not supposed to talk? I was like, I thought we are the mouthpiece for the community.
100%.
Right.
So a lot of people would take me aside, former and current elected officials, and they're like, what are you doing?
You're talking too much.
Yeah, they were like, you ask way too many questions. I was like, well, I don't understand everything.
But how are we? Yeah.
They're like, well, you don't ask. Well, I remember one person said, you don't ask a question that you don't already know the answer for. That's rule number one. I was like,
oh my gosh.
You're like,
is that rule number one?
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
why is it
Show
rule
me
number
what
one?
book you're looking
Yeah.
at. I was like, I'm gonna check your sources.
Right.
Yeah,
Who wrote
yeah.
that rule?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think that's right. And then, of course, other people would walk up to me and be like, everything you're doing is very offensive. You're disagreeing with people, and it's really just making people feel bad. I was like, well, I don't mean to make people feel bad,
Yeah.
but I definitely didn't agree with, the topic that was brought
Yeah.
up, so I just
Right.
thought I should say it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, again, that happens anywhere you go in this world.
About
Totally.
any topic.
You have to determine your own core. Like,
Yeah.
if this is the way I feel about right and wrong decisions, that doesn't change.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I got a new career doesn't mean all of a sudden I don't have like a moral compass. I'm
Right.
like, no, I know what's right and wrong. Thank you so much for your opinion.
Right.
I'm going to go back and reflect on if I can maybe be a little bit more polished. Maybe I was a little harsh. I can work on being like a little
Yeah.
bit more,
My presentation.
yeah, because I'm not saying they were totally wrong on
Yeah.
it, because I think to your point, there's collaboration in this. So it doesn't matter if you think you're awesome.
Yeah.
You still need to collaborate with other representatives, with
Yeah.
community members. So you can't always be like, I'm Miss Right or I'm the only person. You have to decide, when am I going to lead? When am I going to follow? When am I going to speak? When am I going to listen?
Yeah.
So I had to find that fine balance in myself, as well as how do I comport myself in a way that's still speaking up for my community without putting other people down, without making other people feel like less, right?
Right.
Because I'm articulate, because I do my homework.
Yeah.
I remember people would come and they'd be like, how did you know all those things? I was like, I read the bill.
I read
I
the
just-
bill.
I read it.
Yeah.
And then I researched it. And then I sat with a couple lawyers and I was like, I don't understand this.
Help me
So it was a
understand.
pro and con for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was a pro because I don't understand law.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to try 5 times harder than everyone else in the room.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't understand anything. It's a con because other people who are lawyers are just like, "Rah, rah, 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 rah,"
Right,
and I'm
right,
like,
right.
dang, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
page are we on? Shoot. I was like,
Excuse me, sir. Can you repeat that?
yeah. So I really, and even to this day, when people have meetings with me, I'm always like, please, slower.
Yeah.
Please, 101 version.
Yeah.
Okay, start again.
Yeah.
And then sometimes when it's over my head, I'm like, you're gonna have to do it again.
Yeah.
I was like, I still don't understand what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of learning, right? Is to admit
100%.
you don't know everything, to not sit in a room and pretend or make like you know what's going on.
Yep.
You don't know what's going on, speak up.
Yes.
Say,
Yep.
excuse me, I'm lost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a teacher, I've been an educator my whole life, so that was normal for me. That's
Right.
what we teach our students.
To do.
But then
Yeah.
as adults, it was like this very culture of
You
like,
can't do that.
don't do that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, sorry, I'm just gonna go back to what I know.
Yeah.
Why do you think that's the case? Because I feel like showing up as an authentic human being and only standing in your truth and what you actually know, and then questioning when you don't know, is more relatable. It makes you a human being where people are like, wow, I like this person. I can get along with them. I can relate to them. They don't know it either. And they're not acting like they do. Like, why does it change from childhood to adulthood? Why?
I feel like some of it is that identity of who someone is, right? So like my husband was a football player, right? And for a long time he identified as a football player,
Yeah.
but that is not who you are,
That's
right?
what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's the same thing for a legislator. There are many people who have been in office for so many years that is who they are.
Right.
And you are threatening who they are. And I'm like, whoa, I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like by all means, I pray for you and your family. I hope success upon your life. However, I disagree on this topic that we're discussing right here.
Yeah.
I don't mean to threaten
Not you as a human being.
Yeah.
Right,
And so I had to
right.
really kind of get at that, right?
Yes.
Is how do I say, this is not a difference between you and I. This is difference between your opinion of this and my opinion of this.
Yes.
So let's
100%.
circle around this.
Yeah.
I love that. We talk about that all the time.
Totally. Yeah. Do you think that you're having a proper impact there in the government? Like, are you I'm trying to get at like how difficult it really is in your job to be able to like affect change,
Yeah,
because
bring
you
about
sound like
change.
you're a very, very passionate person. I can
We
tell.
can relate to you on that because we're trying to bring about
100%.
change in our industry and
Right.
how investors are viewed and all that. So
But sometimes there's just stuff that's set up a certain way, and there's people that are in power that do things, and like we sometimes feel like the little guy coming in, and like we have all of these brilliant ideas, and we know that the things that we care about so deeply will help our community, but like it feels like we're up against it
yeah.
sometimes.
Do you think one
you know
person
what I
can
mean?
make a difference?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But I do think that it's daunting, right?
Yeah.
So I would say that, even now as a council member, so now I'm not in the house of 76.
Right.
I'm in a house of 9. So I have 8 colleagues that we deliberate together, and 9 or 76, they're all difficult, right? Because we have different viewpoints. Maybe we all believe in the same end goal, but how we get there is different.
Yeah.
So we're like, ugh, I don't want to get there that way.
Yeah.
So, I guess I would say though that the more I do this, the more I figure out that one, it's okay for me to how do I say this?
Yeah.
I have a messy path.
So do I.
So like I feel like I always get to the end.
Yeah.
It's just like kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm like, I got there.
Yeah.
Right.
And other people are like, no, but it's step 1, then step 2, then step 3. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I'd rather just go 7, 9, 2.
Yeah.
And they're
Right.
like, out of order. I'm like, I know.
You're the visionary versus integrator. You
Right.
go on the
And
visionary
To
side.
your
Yeah.
point about like generations, right? I feel like our generation is more collaborative. I would feel like there's a generation before us that's more competitive.
Yes.
100%.
Where when I
Agreed.
step in the room, they think I'm competing. I'm
Threat,
like, whoa.
threat,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to compete with you.
Right.
Same goal.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then like that mindset of collaboration means that I believe we can get to an end goal with lots of minds in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Other people are like, no, only 3. And I'm like, wait, how can you get there with 3? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
3 people aren't smart enough. Like
Yeah.
that's just in my head. I'm like,
Right.
you're never going to get there.
Right.
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 They're like,
right.
no, this is faster. This is better. I'm like, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm like, I guess we could try that. And of course, I always let people, try their ways and whatnot. But I just try to be really creative in the way I navigate around things. So, like, I'll put an example in front of you that's kind of artsy.
Yeah.
But it was a building in our district that was heavily vandalized.
Yeah.
They call me. They're like, we need more police officers out here. You need to allocate more money so that we can make sure that this doesn't get vandalized. I was like, I don't know if we can have police officers
Yeah.
just watching for spray paint cans.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think that's like high on the priority level.
Or
Yeah.
a good resource.
But I
right,
understood
time.
what they were saying though.
Yeah, totally.
They were tired of it. So I was
Yeah.
like, hey, how do I fix this? How do I fix this? I was like, let's paint a mural.
Yeah.
They were like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, so what if we change the energy in the area? What if we make it more pleasant? What if we make it where the community owns this wall?
Yes.
They were like, you think this is going to work? I was like, I think so.
Yeah.
I think this is going to work.
Yeah.
So they did. The owners, paid 40 grand for the wall. The artists came. We had kids from Boys and Girls Club come and
Oh,
paint
love
it.
that.
So
Yeah, it's
cool.
never been vandalized since. It was in
Wow.
2015.
Yeah.
But it was just a change of energy and it was a change of thought process. But I'm looking for those ideas because we should not be dependent on government.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because then we're going to continuously try to tax people to get funds to get that idea. And that's where I feel like I differ from everyone. I'm
Yeah.
like, all my ideas are like free or close to free.
Right.
I
Yep.
love that.
Because I feel like the community is going to be the one at the end of the day that never goes away.
Yeah.
Government come and go.
Yeah.
Politicians
Totally.
here and there, here and there.
Yeah.
So we got to depend on the community and say, hey, how can you guys be a part of the solution? Because this solution is going to last for a long time.
100%.
Drop the mic. Like, we're good.
No,
Like,
no,
that
no,
was it.
for sure. But when you get the community involved and owning it and feeling like it's theirs as well, they take care of it. They
There's
protect
pride.
it.
Yes.
There's pride in it.
Yes,
And
versus the government
it's
doing
a long-lasting solution rather than sometimes a short-term solution that people search for. So
Yeah.
I love that.
it. Love that.
Yeah, we
Love
do
that.
it. We do it with our homeless program. I started running it last year. I do 5 areas, but it was the same idea.
Mm-hmm.
I run it out of different churches throughout our coast and nonprofits, but I chose these areas because their vision and mission is to care for these people. So when people come to the outreach and we don't go out to beaches, people are like, why don't you just walk to the beach? I'm like, no. People need to come because I'm going to help the goers go. Okay.
Yes.
So you need to meet me and tell me that you want to try. Because if you do, I will. Right. You give effort, we give effort. Because in order for you to become strong enough to get yourself off your feet, I need to help you become stronger by not doing things for you.
Exactly.
So when they come, it's this whole other thing because they leave their environment, right? They come to this area where they're like, whoa, what is this?
It's
Yeah,
scary.
what
We
is this?
feed them a hot meal. It's 1 hour. I only do 1 hour of work
Yeah.
in each of these areas, which we
Yeah.
have 10. So
Yeah.
when they come, I'm like, hey, let's get this done. Let's work on the different things you're doing. But at the end of the day, when the government is gone, they still are attached to a support system.
Yeah.
Yes.
People who care for them.
Yes.
And I'm trying to explain to to the city and to others, like, we can finance a building. We can buy all these programs. But when it's closed at 5:00, who is there?
Yeah, what?
Nobody.
Right.
So why don't we attach them to people who actually, this is their lifelong mission to care for others? To me, that is a more sustainable solution. That's not going to cost us millions over a 50-year period.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, how do nonprofits get involved in the work that you're doing?
Well, I guess I'll refer to that program I just talked about. I call it Restore, Reconnect, Revive. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to teach people how to make steps towards empowerment, right? So instead of enabling, empower. In fact, all my flyers say that.
Yeah.
When we
Love
pass
that.
it out, I'm like, empower, not enable.
Yeah.
Empower, not enable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because what we need them to understand is that there are some times that our help becomes hurtful, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because sometimes when I'm doing too much, I'm being hurtful because I am taking away their ability to go. Even just yesterday, a gentleman filled out the work app. I even let him use my name as a reference.
Yeah.
I said, you're going to get the job. I put my name on there. Then he gave it back to me. I said, oh, no, you got to walk it in.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, I don't want to. He's like, can you please? I said, no, you can
No.
do this.
Yeah.
You can do this. I said, if you want this job, all you have to do is walk it in. He kind of hung his head.
You got to do the work.
And there's a couple other gentlemen in the room, and they're like, "Come on, man, you can do
You can
this.
do it." Yeah.
You can walk it in." Like, but that's the thing, though, is
Yeah.
like, what would I do by taking that application away and doing it for him? I would do nothing for him.
It's
Nothing.
hurtful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think that's what I'm trying to explain to these nonprofits. I'm trying to show them that I love the outreach, I love the clothing, I love the Thanksgiving meals, but how do we help them from A to Z instead of A to B?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And the way we help them from A to Z is we do things and work in the gap in areas that maybe they couldn't. Say, for example, employment. For me, that's a huge one.
Yeah,
Let's
huge
go
one.
back to work.
Yes.
Employment, because many of them will never be able to have the kind of background to get a job. They don't have employers. They don't have a work history. They don't have any references. Will you allow them to put your name down as a reference? Like, that's a big thing.
That
I'm
is
not
a big
saying.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, because then the employer is going to say, how well do you know this person? Are they
Right.
trustworthy? Should I be able to let them into my, store and they won't
My
steal
business,
from me?
right.
Yep.
So I think those are the things where I feel like, hey, anybody that's a nonprofit can step in and do those. I'm trying to steer people away from duplicating things like, oh, we give out clothing or we give out dog food. I do use those. Don't get me wrong. We do
Right.
give out those. We give it out as incentives, but I feel like the bigger help we need is that support, right? Can you sit and talk with someone for 1 hour?
Yeah.
What? You don't want me to bring anything? No, I just need you to talk with them. Maybe 1 hour. Could you just kind of see what's going on?
Yeah.
And I've even dove as deep as to call their parents.
Yeah.
There's a homeless guy that lived across, and his mom called me, and he's like a grown man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was like, so I heard you're helping my son. I was like, how did you even get my number?
Yeah. How did you get my number?
She's like, oh, so-and-so told me, so-and-so told me, so-and-so. And so what's going on with him? And she had no idea. She hadn't talked to her son for years. And she thought that he was just thriving. And I was like, he's not thriving.
No.
Yeah.
He's definitely selling drugs. I was like, so how do we help him get out of that? And actually, he went to Vegas where she was. But that's the thing is, when I sit down with someone who's in need, my first question is, where's your family?
Yeah.
I want to know where they are. Can I talk to them, please?
Yeah.
I just want to see what the whole story is, because there's no way we're going to get there by just giving you a shirt. I will give you a shirt. Well, let's
But we
talk
need
about
a
other
little
But
bit
stuff.
more.
that's an incentive, right?
Yeah.
And
Well,
we got to
and
get down to it.
You said it. If you actually just give an hour of your time or whatever amount of time you have, the help that they need is actually less complicated than it might present. You know what I mean? And you might have the nonprofits might have resources that they can provide that will help empower that person to take the next step. But you only do or perform as good as the information that you have.
Well, and to that point, I would say, are you willing to share your network?
That too.
Because when I sit down with them, and yesterday a lady sat with me and she said, I've been on the Section 8 list. I don't know what's going on. I was like, hold on, I know a guy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
called him.
yeah.
I was like, dude, can you figure out where this lady's application is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was like, why is everything so
So-
easy for you?
yeah.
She's like, it's been so hard for me. I was like, girl, that's why I'm sitting with you.
Yeah.
I'm here to open all my resources. What else?
Accessibility.
I was
Yeah.
like, what's next?
Yeah.
Doctor. Oh, I know your doctor. Hold on.
Yeah.
Let me call it.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the hard part, right? There are people with no phones, no chargers. They don't know how to get a hold of. They have no address.
Yeah.
So how are they supposed to make it, right? So if you can be that person that's like, hey, let me open a little bit of my network. I'll share some of my resources with you. Super valuable.
Yeah, but what
Wow,
you did
that's
is just
cool.
case management. If you can
I
literally
know.
just provide case
I'm secretly
management.
trying to make everyone a case manager. Everybody. I'm like, what's your pastor? I'm going to call you case manager.
Case manager.
Just,
Yeah.
just as a nickname.
Literally, like what you just did was case management. So it sounds like also a huge need is more case management.
Oh, yes. I've told the city, I've told the state that. I've sat down with the governor's office, and
Yeah.
I get it. You know, there's a lot, but I have 2 outreach workers for Eva to cut and appoint. 2. 1, 2.
Wow.
That's not enough.
That is.
Oh, and the 2 have a huge caseload. So I
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like the program that I'm creating, I'm trying to create supports for them to be
Yeah.
able to do, because I wouldn't be able to manage 500
How?
people.
Oh, it's
You can't.
impossible.
Do you remember what so and so needed with their
No.
birth certificate? Did you remember
Yeah, there's no
too
way.
much.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I
Crazy.
would love to be able to talk further offline about how
Yeah,
we can
of course.
collaborate with you. Yeah,
Yeah.
because. Like I said, merge in the passions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are you currently working on? Like, what do you, I want to get into the DPP stuff because like I said offline, when you say DPP, our ears, light up because that's a big part of what we deal with every single day in our industry.
Well, I think it's that, but it's just like it's like every local person that has a house that has ever tried to do anything has dealt with something, right? So was it kind of like your constituents were reaching out to you and just complaining
What
nonstop?
made you go in that direction?
Yeah.
Definitely constituents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there wasn't a week that I wasn't getting a phone call about this. So I'm sure my colleagues were as well, but I don't think everyone had the desire to just jump in and start like
Yeah, 'cause
unraveling
it's
the
muddy for sure.
It is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So we had a town hall last year, and I had the director come, the former director. And when he sat by me, I also got the feeling like he was super frustrated. So then I was like, So kind of off camera, I was like, what exactly are all your frustrations? And I was like, right.
Yeah,
Writing everything
Yeah,
down.
because I mean, what if he also was being like, blocked by somebody or
100%,
So
yeah.
I wanted to know, like, where are all the things that I need to do as a legislator, you as a director are frustrated with, the mayor needs to do to release funds, right? So I'm making different columns of
Yeah.
like to-do lists.
Yeah.
And there is a list that only legislators can do because only we can suggest changes in the law.
Right.
So I was like, okay, well, I can get at that one.
Yeah.
So I kind of started to go at it, like different things that were, making it really hard for local families to be able to get the permits.
Yep.
So Bill 56, which just passed, was the one that I thought was the easiest, which is just expand the exemption list. There are things that don't need a permit, and maybe that exemption list hasn't been updated since 1980. Let's just touch it again.
Yeah.
Right? So we raised some of the threshold levels. Now fences 6 feet and below, no need permit. I don't know why in the world there was only 36 inches and below before. I'm not
Right.
sure.
Who puts a 36-inch fence up?
Yeah, no.
For rabbits?
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
who is that for? So it was a lot of things that I thought was common sense, like solar, part for part replacement. There's a lot of new technology. Why do you have to pull a permit for that? Same
Right.
solar system, same output level, nothing new that HECO needs to know about. Get your new technology in there. Don't get in line with everyone else and their mom.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think those things, of course, the director was like, common sense, let's do it. So I was glad that went through.
Yeah,
But, there's a huge manpower issue.
Yeah.
So we are sorting through like, manini little things like, oh, the pre-screen, oh, the bot, whatever.
Yep.
Those things are great and awesome, but like we cannot forget that the biggest part of the permit is the code review.
Yes.
When you go to the code review section, a human being does it.
Yes.
human beings are capable of error.
Sure.
Right.
They're capable of bias.
Yep.
They're capable of like unfair practices.
Yep.
Yes.
So I think that that's where a lot of people frustrate, right? Is like,
Yeah.
so-and-so did this and so-and-so is telling me I can't paint my building a certain color. And I'm like,
That
wait,
doesn't
why
make
is that our
sense.
purview?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things, though, that from person to person, we have these differences. So,
Totally.
you know, in a recent interview I did about DPP, they said after all of these people went to jail
Yeah.
over what happened, do you think that it's been cleaned out enough? I said, you know, I don't really know everyone that works in DPP, but I know there are many wonderful people that work there.
Yes.
Yep.
But if it was me, I think I'd put a vision statement on the wall and a list of principles and values that we live by
Yep.
that we don't break anymore.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
we operate with integrity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We, you know, and I'm not saying that they don't.
Yeah.
I'm just saying in my own office, I have a vision statement on my wall. In the event that any of my staff members start to stray,
Yep.
I'm
Get
like,
reminded real quick.
don't forget,
Right.
this is why we're here.
Exactly.
These are the values that we operate with. And
Yep.
I think it's just a good reminder to anybody that, hey, when you're feeling that little bit of like, ooh, did I do something dishonest? That you're like, no, we don't do anything dishonest
Yeah.
here.
Totally.
Right, right.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, there's that human element. You know what I mean? And like, even the best people need those reminders. You know what I mean? And so that's the hard thing. It's like, how important is culture in a company? You know what I
It's
mean?
everything.
And how do we build the right culture? And I think it's from doing things like that.
Yeah.
But even in our business, it's like culture is one of the most important things, you know? Remind our employees like what we're about, you know what I mean? And make sure that they feel it and they own it. And I know it's hard in I mean, I don't want to say it is, but I don't know exactly what the plan reviewers are getting paid, or is that you know what I mean?
A part
Are there
to play.
people just showing up to work because they have to, kind of a thing?
Well,
And
we
how
know
do we
for-
get over that fact? It's hard, you know what I mean?
We know for
it's
a fact
difficult.
there's a lack of personnel.
They're short 80 people.
There's a lack of personnel, and then
crazy.
even then, I feel like there's a lack of qualified people in there.
Well, and it's difficult because for those who are third-party reviewers, which some people are like, ooh, they're all bad.
Yeah.
Let's recall,
Yeah.
one third-party reviewer went to jail and 3 DPP people. So there can be corruption no matter where you are.
No matter
Okay?
what. Yeah.
Yeah.
So whatever program you come up with, it can go corrupt.
Yeah.
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 So we don't just say, ooh, that program's corrupt. No,
No,
people
people.
make bad choices.
Right,
Right.
100%.
So in this third-party review program, they're requiring them to know the land use code. They're requiring them to know Chapter 12, Chapter 18. They're requiring them to memorize these things, take out $1 million of insurance, and pass qualifying tests at 75%. Then you become a third-party reviewer. My question is, does everyone who reviews code in DPP also do those things? Because we got to speak the same language.
Right.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Makes
if I have a
sense.
PhD and you have a PhD, we went to the same school, maybe we understand the same terminology, we can flow.
Yeah.
We can start talking about
Yeah.
things. But if we don't, then we have to kind of go back to like, okay, what vocab words are we going to use? Because I'm not
Yeah.
sure what you're even
Right.
saying here.
Right. Right.
So I think
right.
there is discrepancies there, and that frustrates people who have really tried hard to be qualified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Licensed architects, licensed engineers
Yes. Yep.
who are like, I took the test, I pulled my
I know what
insurance.
I'm talking about.
Yeah. Like, and I can feel that frustration
Yeah,
in them.
right. But that goes back to funding, right? In order to get more training for people and more qualified people in these seats that are reviewing all of the plans and permits, we need to be able to pay them.
Ish. I mean,
Yeah.
they have the ability to incentivize.
Okay.
So we've had long discussions about how we can utilize incentives for hiring when you have hard to fill staff positions, which we do have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've asked all the directors in the city to please put in their budget line item how much money they need for incentives, not just DPP, HPD short 400 officers.
Yeah.
Right.
So start to incentivize to attract your hires.
Yeah.
And if it's not a priority for you, then you have to stop complaining that you're short staffed.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of saying that word.
Yeah.
Everywhere we go in the community, oh, the bathrooms
just
is broken. Oh,
Short staff. Short staff.
You think
Yeah.
it's just an easy out?
Well, I just think it takes effort, right? But it also, the city has been extremely difficult at trying to hire. In the last audit, it said that it takes 139 days to hire someone in the city. So whatever that process is, I don't know, but I
Yeah.
have recommended to Dawn that she do an RFP and do a relief worker package.
Yeah.
We did it during COVID.
Yeah.
We had people
Yeah.
over there at the convention center
tons, yeah.
to process unemployment.
Right.
I would say that we're a little bit severely backlogged.
Yeah.
Why can't we go into relief workers?
Yeah.
And do it for a year and a half. I even met with HGEA and I told them, would you guys be in favor of this? We won't take out civil servants, but for a while we need to decrease the backlog.
Right.
The president was like, we should do this already. I'm waiting
Wow.
on my own permit.
Right.
So, like, I think at the end of the day, there's certain things that you can do that are expediting. And I would say that Dawn is a wonderful director and she's trying her best to do all of it. If I didn't feel like she was, I would be, like, definitely on her back.
Right.
But every step we've been making together. And
Love
she's
that.
never really pushed back on me because I think we have the same vision, which is how do we succeed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the solution? Always working towards the solution. I will say, I know that they are making hires because we went to Home Depot yesterday to buy a front door for one
Yeah.
of our projects, and the lady who's been helping me
She
for
sold
years,
us a bunch of doors.
She sold us a bunch of doors.
Yeah.
She got hired at
DPP?
in Board of
Waters-
Water as
Board
a
of Water
plan
Supply
reviewer.
plan
And I'm like,
review.
yes.
I was like,
We need BWS plan reviewers.
Yes.
Yeah, I was like,
She
yes.
just
this is
got
amazing.
hired.
But she's an engineer by trade.
Oh my gosh, and she's working at Home Depot.
and she's working at Home Depot.
We
Yep.
need her mind.
Yes.
So she's gonna go over
exactly.
there. She's like, "This is my last store. I'm gonna be selling you." I was like, "Why? Where are you going?" And she's like, "I'm going to."
But then
Board
we're,
of
like,
Water.
super
I'm like,
happy.
"Yes, go, girl, go."
Yeah.
She just had a friend email me that his permit is stuck at Board of Water Supply Review. And I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
for those of you who know, you know.
Yes, you
Yeah.
know.
I actually just got. I check in with my draftsman a couple times, every other week, and I'm like, "Hey, where are my permits? Where are they?" And when I get a notification that they're through Board of Water and Wastewater, I'm like, "Yes."
Yes. Yeah. But I do have to say that since I've seen you like really making a push and we could tell that there was an effort being made by
Yes.
you to affect some change
Yes.
in that system.
That truly makes a difference.
Right. That truly makes a difference. It has started to get like we're seeing things get better in real
Hopefully.
time.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like even
Yeah.
Bill 56, that piece is huge.
I mean, if we can get people out of line, let's get them out of line.
Get them out of line.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
so surprised with how many solar permits
I was
were in the
shocked.
backlog.
Well, with this whole 100% green energy, everyone's pushing towards it across the nation, not just in Hawaii, which is why the federal government made an app called Solar App Plus, and that it expedites permitting. So I took it to Dawn, the director, and I was like, hey, there's this federal app. They pay for everything. They update the national and state codes. You don't have to worry about all of it. Guess where we got hung up? We have no payment processor.
A payment processor.
That's a real easy fix, right?
Well, and to her credit,
Yeah.
there are other departments that make those decisions, right? That make the payment processing decision where money the city goes.
Yep.
So she did have to go through a couple hoops, but she is trying to actually just swap out the whole system because we're currently using Computronics, the Posse and the E-Plan system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man.
No comment.
I know.
So
Right.
I was like, if we get out of that system, then we can automatically have a payment processor. But I share that not as like a huge barrier, but as one of the small,
There's always red tape, right? You get
there's
through
always just like a
one.
little stuck piece here or there. And I was
Yeah.
like, you got to be kidding me. We have no payment processor.
I
This
know.
goes back to you can only do as good as the knowledge that you have, But if you
Yeah.
didn't bring that knowledge of like this new system and all this, no change would be taking place at all.
Yeah. And I think that that's just priority, right? When people are like, how come this thing's getting done? Is it not funding? I'm like, no, there's money for everything.
Yeah.
It's whether or not it's a priority. So like you really have to, look through our budgets in the city and say, that's where your priorities are.
Yeah.
Wherever you put all the money, that's all your priorities. Your time and your energy goes into things that you care about the most.
Love that.
And I feel like I have to like pound the walls to be like, we should care about this. Because
Yeah.
whether or not it's 8,000 permits, let's multiply that by how much money is stuck in the pipeline.
100%.
That
right?
too.
So when people are waiting on a permit and racking up a new interest rate, costlier materials to do their house, now their parent who they're going to build an ADA ramp for has now passed away. There is no coming back from delaying a permit.
100%.
And it's also delaying money to the city.
Yeah.
Because, you know what I mean?
So I love I think it's a piece of 56 that you introduced that introduces what commercial
Yeah.
permits
that
do
bill?
right now while you're waiting for your permit in process.
approval to start.
You get
So it's called a special assignment inspection.
Okay.
We have it for commercial.
Yep.
I introduced it in Bill 18 for residential because for commercial, I understand, but the majority of our stuck permits are residential.
Right. Yes.
So I said we need something to help that. Unfortunately, the bill stopped moving because Dawn needs more inspectors. Let's go back to we need warm bodies.
we need warm bodies. Yeah.
So I
Okay.
get what she's saying.
Yep.
I mean, we could still pass it. It only has one more vote to get passed, but I think she needs the manpower in order to do that,
Yep.
which I understand. We don't don't want to pass a law and then all of a sudden no one's using it.
Yeah. Doesn't
So
make
I'm
sense.
still of the mindset that will help a lot.
Yeah.
It will.
Because I do think that in the residential process, that if you are able to start while they're processing things, like then at least you can access that interest rate that you got or utilize the supplies that you purchased. And
100%.
I think for small families that are not commercial projects, I mean, that's like your whole entire savings.
It's a big deal.
Well, not
It's
to
huge.
mention this housing crisis, right? I mean, that it kind of, the inability to get permits is kind of perpetuating lack of inventory.
It's
Because,
true.
You know what I mean? If we were able to start projects, do our permits, and build quality products to then put back into inventory for local families to live in, we probably wouldn't have such of a immense housing shortage.
I mean, we'd make an impact.
Yeah.
I think that's like, we're a small company, but like we found a way to buy these houses, fix them up, sell them off market directly to local families. And a lot of time we're under market value. So these families are using this as a generational wealth builder,
walking
right?
into
It's their
equity.
first thing that they're doing. And maybe we only get to do that 5 times a year. But that's 5 families that we got to place in homes. And if we can share this mindset with a bunch of other people like us, and everybody's doing 5 houses a year and doing this, it's a small impact, but it is an
Nonetheless, an
impact. You know what I
impact,
mean?
yeah.
Well, and it's providing jobs.
Right.
And it's specifically targeting local families,
Yes.
whereas larger projects can't do that.
No.
They just have to, target the market or whoever can afford whatever they're putting out there.
Right.
Right.
I do wish that the administration would see that as a benefit because we always talk about affordable housing. We always talk about homelessness. But if we are looking at these solutions seriously, then they're part of the plan that we should start implementing.
100%.
If we are letting, 1,000 local residential permits go, that's how many people we're helping. We should start to count that in the inventory instead of just counting a building we purchased and how many people we put in, which is currently how they're kind of qualifying our inventory.
Yeah.
Which
Oh,
is
the
too
city
bad.
bought, a Waikiki Vista today, and we're going to do 200 people in here, but Waikiki Vista is still vacant right now because we're still trying to figure out where the funding is coming from.
Yeah.
I think it was a good purchase, but again, our housing processes, even in the city, are in all kinds of different departments. Department of Land Management acquires property. Department of Community Services has HUD funding to fund properties. Department of Planning and Permitting actually does the private activity bonds to do the financing for this different department. BFS actually has the person to qualify the financing. Then we have the Office of Housing that makes policy decisions. So I actually just recently introduced a resolution to just basically put all of them under one deputy where the
Yes.
money and the person making the decisions could be together.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, the administration did it.
Didn't like that.
No, because they said they're going to hire a consultant and that the consultant will say whether or not this is a good idea. And I was like, okay, first off, I've met with lots of developers, lots of local owners, a lot of people that think that this is the right step. There was a study in 2016 with a permitted interaction working group with lots of smart people that came up with this as a solution. You're telling me one person who's going to look through all the same things I look through is going to tell me a better idea?
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that, but I said, let's have a public hearing about it.
Yeah.
And they said, no, we're going to just have some private meetings and then we'll let you know. I was like, all right.
All right. Yeah.
I said, how much time do you need?
Yeah.
They were like, oh, end of year. I said, by end of year, if it's not done,
Okay,
I'm moving.
I'll be
Yeah.
back here on December 31st.
Yeah, no, I always do that. Whenever they're like, I'm going to crack down on crime, I'm like, what day should I bring
Yeah.
you back?
What
Yeah.
day?
Yeah.
What day should we have a
Yeah.
town
When are you
hall
gonna
again?
I
start?
have
Yeah.
that in my calendar for you. But that's what we need. We need more people like you actually willing to speak up and say something and present new ideas, fresh information, so that we can actually bring about change. The younger generation deserves it.
Yeah. 100%.
Let's go.
Let's go.
So one last question on that. Why do you think other people haven't tried to tackle this issue sooner?
The DPP issue?
Yes.
yeah.
I don't know. Like
Yeah.
when I got into council with all the amount of complaints we had, I was like, why
How
is
is
no
no
one
one-
going at this?
Yeah.
Like going at it.
Yeah.
Right.
Not
And you're
like, oh, let's do an audit. Not like
No,
that.
Yeah.
No.
Like
Just
going
reform.
at it.
Going
Yeah.
at it. Let's
Yeah.
make some real change.
Like whether
Yeah.
it's changing admin rules, changing laws, getting a payment processor, like there's pieces that need to be, worked. I don't know, because even a few years ago when this problem was kind of at its height, like I had asked in the council hearing, like, as a council, people are depending on us to know what's going on. And they were like, let's do another audit. I was like, oh, heck no.
That's not the answer all the time.
But who read the last audit? I did. And the last audit was, informational. But at the same time, that was in 2017. We have a couple new processes here we've learned since then. So I do think it's actually what we call wisdom, the application of knowledge. Is like when the knowledge comes about in an audit or whatnot, you have to start to read that. You have to start to meet with other people, increase your knowledge base, and then start to turn that into action, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it could just be something that I love doing. But I was like, I'll take it on.
I love that.
Love that.
So how can us as the investor community with Deals and Aloha support what reform you're trying to bring about at DPP? Like, what would you want the community to do more of, be louder about? Like, how can we support so that you're like, look, I have all these people behind me,
Well, I'll tell you this much. It does get tough because even in Bill 56, there are very few people that testified in support, even though a lot of people are like, this is so amazing.
Yeah.
But I get it that it's hard. It's very hard to keep up with when are city council hearings? How do I log in to testify? So we do allow people to do Zoom testimonies. So every first Wednesday of the month, we have full council. And then every second week of the month, we have committees. So next week is committees.
Okay.
So in the committees, typically you'd see DPP stuff in zoning. So I always open the zoning agenda and I try to see if any of my stuff is on top. And I'm like, oh, my bill's there. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And then we try to give the rally cry because we do have a long list of people that we've kind of been emailing to say, hey, please come and testify. So
I see them.
yeah, you can definitely, jump on our email list because it's not like it always comes up. Sometimes a committee chair might hold a bill or they might be like, oh, we'll hear it next month. So we try to keep everyone in the loop.
Okay.
Awesome.
So
Yeah,
submit
that's awesome.
testimony.
Yeah, but I mean, I would love for people to do it live.
Like live, come in.
You can come in or you can even be on the screen, but it's more than just the written because I do read through written, but a lot of other people don't. So.
Yeah, but then if
Bigger
you're right there,
impact.
they have to listen to you.
Well, and some of the council members who are unfamiliar with this territory, they may ask you questions. Every testifier is allowed to take questions from council members.
Yep.
So when people come up like yourselves that might seem like a little bit more knowledgeable, somebody might stop you and be like, how exactly does this help you?
100%.
And that would be so much more advantageous than me being like, from my perspective, they'd be like, okay, thank you. We know you introduced the bill.
Yeah.
They want to hear how it's going to hit the
people.
ground.
Yeah.
Love that.
I do love that.
Yeah, because we have a over the last 6 years, have a real grassroots like community that we're building with local people like our born and raised here that are doing what we're doing. And we just want to support you as much as we can. Yeah. So I wanted to segue into something else real quick because this is something that I noticed that you do that I feel like more people should do, especially politicians, right? You are very good with putting yourself out there in social media, getting your message across in this new technology, this world that we're in now.
Yeah, for the internet.
And I think it's so impactful, especially for young people. What drew you to start doing that? Because I just don't see it happening from very many people in office.
No, not at all.
You know why that is?
Or why do you do it?
Okay, well, I guess first off, I feel like it started a long time ago. So me and my brothers have always been into like iMovie, making our own stuff. Like, my wedding video, my brothers made it. We would always make videos for like our family reunions, for grad parties, baby parties. So I felt like it was always like something that we loved doing.
Yeah.
And then when I ran for office, I just kind of took that skill and it was, I still have very old videos that I made in 2014 when I was running for office, just like me and my kids.
Yeah.
And like, I'm out campaigning, but I always felt like it was a good way to portray to others like what was happening, whether or not they could be with me walking the streets. They still felt like they were walking the streets with me,
100%.
Yeah, totally.
And so I kind of liked it all the way back then. And then of course, as technology progressed with like captions and like B-roll and music.
Yeah.
I just love all of that, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm super artsy. So I'm just like, yes.
Yes.
So when I was first in State House, I used to make vlogs where I would just be like, okay, I teach like a leadership principle. And then I'd combine that leadership principle with things in the community I was doing with those leadership principles,
love
just
that.
as kind of like a virtual newsletter.
Yeah.
There you go.
Because I was like, I don't like reading newsletters.
Yeah.
So I kind of was always like, what would I want to consume information? Like if I am watching somebody, how would I want to receive it? And
Right.
I would always want to receive it like visually.
Yeah.
I'm a really visual learner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like even when people
Same.
are talking, I'm like, please stop.
Yeah.
Can you show me a graph real fast?
Yeah.
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 Because like I don't even know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
let's use colors, let's use pictures.
Yeah.
Love that.
So I think for me, it helped me to be interested in my own
that.
job.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's like, honestly, if you were with me at work, you'd be bored to death.
Oh, I'm sure I
Yeah.
would.
Yeah, like I mean, this is hours and hours of listening, which
Yeah.
at the end of the day, for me, it's interesting because I still feel like it's impactful for my community. But like hours and hours of listening without like visual stimulus,
It's
you know,
hard. It's
stimulation.
hard.
yeah, it's real difficult.
Yeah.
So I feel like for me, my social media platform is a way that I can make it simplistic and a way that I can make it consumable.
Yeah.
Because like I don't know, even my husband is just like, oh my gosh, this stuff is so boring.
Yeah.
Because
No,
I come home from
totally.
work and I'm telling him, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Stop!" already."
Yeah.
So like, I feel like it's a way to bring it to life
Yeah.
and still make it like, "Hey, this is something cool."
Yeah.
Because like, how else will
I
people want to
agree.
run for office if it's just boring?
I agree.
Exactly.
And we
So-
need more people like you in office. So
100%.
if we can attract those people, then
Yeah.
go on social media.
Yeah, and everyone has their own style. You know, Brenton Ava definitely has like a very newscaster
Yes.
style.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's cool. That's his. You know, that's
But he
his
comes
way.
from that world, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and there are other people, like a few, not a lot.
Yeah.
Like who else? Not a lot. Not
Not
a
a
lot.
lot.
Yeah, Augie does a lot of his own, but
Yeah.
he does like a lot of selfie stuff, and
Yeah.
like he always watches mine. And he's like, "Man, how did you even
How
make
did
that
you do
video?"
that? Yeah.
I was like, "Bro,
Yeah.
get CapCut."
Yeah.
I was like,
I have people that can help you. I want to touch on a subject that we feel passionately about and actively trying to change. And it is the concept of being priced out of paradise.
"Ooh, let's do it."
Let's do it.
I was wondering when this was gonna come.
I'm sure you saw the reel we posted.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But it generated a lot of conversation, as I knew that it would. And it was a lot of positive, and then there was also the other side of it where people genuinely think it's impossible to thrive here. And we are taught that. And I'm not saying it's not difficult. It's very difficult.
And we're not saying that people aren't actively being priced out of
Oh, we
paradise.
know
like
it's happening.
That it's not happening right now.
I think
you know
what
what I
we're
mean?
passionate about is trying to change that narrative and showing local people that they can not only survive here, but they can thrive here. And using ourselves as the guinea pig or the example of what we have done in order to sustain a beautiful life here where we're born and raised. And I just want to know what your thoughts are on that. Because it's all you hear.
Yeah.
It's all you hear on the news. It's all you're told. And there's never enough light being shed on the Hawaiians, the local people that are actually doing well here. What if we push that story a little bit more?
Well, and it's become this convenient tagline for people to say.
Yeah.
This frustrating, out of our control line that we all need to repeat because that's the narrative.
Yeah.
And the narrative is real for many people.
Yes.
However, do lines like that empower us to make better decisions?
No.
I'm of the belief that the words that come out of your mouth is what you believe.
Yes.
I'm of the belief that the words that come out of your mouth become your future.
Yes.
Yes.
So you better stop saying stuff that you don't want to be your future.
Oh,
right?
100%.
there we go.
So
That's
like,
it.
You can't be manifesting things and think, "Oh man, how did this happen to me?" You spoke it. Once
Yeah.
it left your lips, you spoke it.
and became your reality.
You gotta speak the words that are gonna take you to the places that you want to be. You only know what you
100%.
know. You only see what you see, right? So I feel like even more so, it's important for us, whether you believe it or not, is to envision what you do want, okay? And even if what you do want seems out of grasp, how do you get there and take the steps to get there?
100%.
Because we can't just throw up our hands and give up.
Yeah, and say, no, that's my reality. That's what
Th-
I'm told.
this-
That's what I know. It is what it is.
Well, and shortly after that clip you guys released, I did a different podcast and
Yeah.
they released the one where I said everyone should come home.
yeah.
And I was like, I mean, I believe it.
I believe it too.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yep.
saying, like, I'm giving out the open invitation. You want to come home? I welcome you.
Yes.
I would love more people from our generation to be here, to be part of the next round of leadership for the state of Hawaii.
Right.
But we can't make those decisions by deciding that it's too tough, right? We have to make those decisions by deciding tough is a path that we can handle.
Right.
Yes, things are hard, but that doesn't mean they're impossible.
Yes.
So it's just hard.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
So you're
hard.
just going to have to climb. You're just going to have to work harder. Does that make you a better person? I believe it does.
I believe it does as well.
Yeah.
And I
Right.
think we shouldn't shy away from that. Back to work.
Yeah.
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 You know, that word has to be something that actually excites us.
Yes.
I agree.
You know, like when I hear work, I mean, that's why I love doing cleanups,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
because
yeah.
I'm just like, work.
Yeah.
You know, because like work makes me feel good.
Yeah.
And I feel like even for a lot of the homeless individuals I help, once I help them get a job, it's like, boom, purpose.
Yes.
Boom,
Exactly.
paycheck.
The
Yes.
biggest
Boom, like-
thing for them.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
And I've helped many of them get jobs. And I'm like, perhaps we're going the wrong way by starting out with housing or other things. Let's get people working.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm just saying. Because
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of them would go to work and then go back to their tent. And then slowly, as they started to save up, we got them into a place, we got
Yep.
them a voucher. But, you know, even people who we help to get vouchers, they go, oh, I don't want to work. I go, oh, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Doesn't
Whether or
work
not
like-
you want to work or not, you're still going to have to get money coming in.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what you think? Oh, I don't want to. I was like, okay, we'll talk tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's called relentless engagement.
I like
Yeah.
that.
I never give
That's
up.
my social media plan. Relentless engagement.
Mine is relentless follow up. That's what,
Yeah, that's his
what it
marketing,
is.
But then,
right?
like, the next week when I see someone, I'm like, so how are you feeling about work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You feel better about it today?
Yeah.
And like, even if you weren't able to get on a payroll, say for example, you were able to just be somewhere, right? Somebody said, hey, can you come help out, set up tents, whatever's. Like that camaraderie, that feeling of production,
Yep.
of output.
Yes.
Like that's where people start to feel like I belong. See, and I would argue, back to your point, why people left is, did you feel like you didn't belong? That's my question. Because maybe it was the house, maybe it was that there was no job path for you.
Yeah.
Both of my brothers are in software, and the kind of stuff that they do doesn't exist here in Hawaii.
Doesn't even exist here.
No, so
it's crazy.
Even if they wanted to stay, that job's not here.
Right.
But I'm like, hey, how many times have you told your employer that we need to go virtual? I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, do you want to talk to your CEO or what?
Yeah.
'Cause I think that you guys should just be working from home, and this
Right.
is home.
Right.
So
Right.
I just, just the idea that it's impossible. I say, take it in small steps.
Yeah.
Let's start with what is impossible. Okay, so is it the job? Okay, let's talk through that. Is it the house price? Okay, let's talk through that. Make a plan.
Yeah.
Because I think even with my own kids, when something seems really overwhelming, break it into small pieces.
Yeah.
Totally.
Little
Tackle one at a
bite-sized
time.
pieces.
One at a time.
Yep.
We can do this.
Totally.
So I love what you guys do because you're giving that hand of help to somebody that maybe couldn't figure out all those pieces.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yep.
how difficult is it to try to get finance to buy a home? It's impossible for
It
some people to
is.
figure out.
100%.
I mean, we don't even want to bring up Hawaiian homes.
Yeah.
I'm just
Oh,
saying,
gosh,
man.
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
talking hoops and hoops to
Yeah.
jump through.
Right.
Right.
Where maybe on year 17, you really gave up because you're like, frack, I've been trying for 17 years.
Exactly.
Old already.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I can totally respect that people
Yeah.
get exhausted. But then
100%.
I do believe that if there are people like yourself or like myself that are like, hey, let me help you navigate through this.
Right.
Like, hitch your train to somebody that has maybe a path that you haven't seen before. Like, let's make believers of people that can stay here and live here for generations to come. Let's do it.
100%.
Let's do it. That's
I
what we're
accept.
doing.
I
I
100% accept.
I'm on your podcast and I'm like, come on, guys, I'm
Yeah,
making
yeah.
a plan.
I accept the
We're
challenge.
doing this.
I mean, and it starts with being open to having that conversation and going against the grain.
Right.
Honestly, that's where it starts for me, where it's like, no, let's say you can stay here. You can thrive here. Yes, a lot of people are leaving, but what if they didn't have to? And bite sizes, like you said, like this is one, this is two. And
Well, and I think I'm just going to throw it out there. Like, I think we need to be less wasteful. I'm just saying I've had
No,
lots
I
of
agree.
conversations with my children about this.
Yes.
Is like we even pack lunches in the morning. I bought this really cool lunch box that heats up their food so that after
It
practice
heats up their food?
Yes, called Lunch Ease.
what?
Yeah, so I put on the timer so that the food's hot when they come out of basketball. Because, like, I'd rather my kids eat home-cooked meals, but we're on the go, right?
Yeah.
But can you imagine if we ate out every single time?
I think I agree with you. A lot of it isn't over somebody's head. If you don't even know where you're spending your money, you don't know where you can cut back.
Right.
How many people don't even have a budget? They don't even know where their money is going. It has to start there. And that's totally free. You don't have to pay for, debt relief services or any financial education to know exactly where your money is going and how to eliminate some expenses that are wasteful. I agree.
I 100% agree.
We sit down and do budgets all the time. I'm like, oh, we didn't need that. Oh, wow, we ate out a
Cut
lot
that
this
out.
month.
Yeah,
I'm like, my favorite is the crock pot. Like, I left for Utah on Tuesday night and I made food before I left. And
Yeah.
the girls were like, Mom, we're so hungry. I'm like,
go
I'm on
check
a
the
plane.
crock pot.
I was like, the crock pot has food inside. Yes.
Yeah.
Like, but that's the thing though, as like a mother, as a husband, as a
Yeah.
parent, like you got to be like thinking ahead.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that this is teaching my children how to do that.
Right.
That, hey, and even when they're hungry after practice, they're like, please. I'm like, are you going to die in the next 30 minutes? I don't
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we'll make it home and I already finished food.
Right. I also think this generation wants the easy path.
Yeah.
We get reached out to a lot about, how to get into real estate and do what we've done. But I think
And they want to skip to your step already.
They want to skip to the step.
Or they think that
don't
it's
see
easy.
all of the
They don't-
6 years that,
they don't
all
see the
steps
crying
that
in
we
the
took.
corner. How are we going to make this work? They don't see the stress. They don't see the struggle. They only focus on the success. But this path was never an easy one, but it was a well worth it one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think that along with the wasteful and they don't want to work, they want the easy button.
Yeah.
And the easy button doesn't exist.
Well, and all we can do is try to influence the people around us, right? Our own children, our own nieces and nephews. Like every moment you have to try to teach the younger generation because, I mean, that's literally why I went into the field I went into.
Yeah.
I know that educators make a difference.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to make a difference in people's lives.
Right.
And do we as adults have to just say, oh, I'm only the parent of these children? Like, no, I'm sure you have a moment with a child that maybe asks you like, Uncle, how did this happen? Like, stop. When the child wants to learn, teach.
Yeah.
Teach. Take the moment to teach and say, you know what? Instead of doing this for you, I'm going to have you do it.
Yeah.
My daughter is always irritated when I say that.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
like, just do it
Yeah,
for
yeah,
me. I'm
just
like,
do it, Mom.
No,
Just
no,
do
no,
it.
no.
Yeah.
Come here.
Let me show you.
This is what it feels like. So I had my daughter drive because she just got her license and she goes, this is so exhausting. I was like, I drive 4 hours a day for you.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm so grateful, Mom. I don't want to drive anymore.
I don't want to drive anymore. Now
But,
I know.
you got to put your kids through it to be like, hey, this is like what's going on in the background, right? So I'm hopeful, despite the whole tag phrases and, buzz lines that they're using in the news. Like, I am hopeful.
Yeah.
And
I
I
am
think we
too.
got to keep being hopeful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, if there are people with your energy out there, like, let's all get together and keep being hopeful.
Yes.
Because I
100%.
think that the energy we put out is the energy we get back.
1,000%.
And so, like, if we can be able to affect this change in this next generation, by all means, let's hui together and do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't want more people to leave.
No.
I do think that a lot of the abandoned homes in our community could be really easily rehabbed.
100%.
Tell me about it.
And I'm just like, why are we looking for the urban sprawl everywhere?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm not saying that it's not going to help. I'm just saying, like, I really love the way our communities look. Let's rehab our communities.
Yeah.
Totally.
I know you said it before we started rolling. If our communities are more beautiful, our communities will therefore then feel better, which will in turn have them thrive more.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I cleaned the community. I
Yeah.
literally was like, you know what? I know why people feel junk over here. This place looked like crap.
Yeah.
I was like, let me help out and
It's
like,
true.
let's clean this area. And of course there was repeat offenders that would come back, but that didn't discourage me.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
like the pile of dishes in my kitchen doesn't discourage me.
right,
It makes
right.
me happy. That means people are eating my food.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hallelujah.
Wait.
Eat my food.
Perspective.
That's perspective. That's mindset and perspective. I love that. I mean, we're investors. I'm an investor, but I design all of our homes. I love pretty stuff. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like, I get it. Your environment is a huge proponent on how you feel on the inside and then what you output. You know what I mean? How you show up in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you guys are able to do many more homes for people because I think you guys did a couple on the Big Island, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I saw those and I was like, see,
Yeah.
can.
Can.
And that, I think there's also a narrative of, investors aren't viewed in the best light here in Hawaii, which is a very layered conversation. But they think that we're going after homes that are not that bad, when in reality, we're going after the homes that don't qualify for traditional financing, where they're caving in or they have holes in the roof.
Or vacant,
Like
abandoned.
this house was a project that we ended up keeping and living in because before we were renting, and I went to Aloha High School, and I grew up 2 streets over, but it had huge holes in the roof. And
12 cars in the driveway.
It was
overgrown.
wild.
We
Rats
found a car
everywhere.
in the backyard under a bunch of grass that we didn't even know was there. That's how bad it was
Yeah.
here.
gosh.
Yeah.
So I mean, those are the types of houses, the abandoned ones that you're referring to.
But it's so crazy because it's like you guys saw the vision, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You didn't see it and then walk away and it was like, oh, that's too much for me. You're like,
I'm
hey,
I'm like,
I could do
yeah,
something
we
with
can
that.
do
Yeah.
something with that. We can make a house beautiful, make the community better, and put a family back into it. For this home, we were the
Family that
you
kept
we
it,
were the
yeah.
local family that got to live in it. But
Well, and I'll encourage you guys by saying that, that story was similar to what happened in Waianae when Twinkles and them lived as homeless individuals at the boat harbor. And at a meeting that we were at, they literally said, Andrea, can you come to this meeting? I was like, why?
Yeah.
Oh, because they're going to talk to us about housing. I said, who's they?
Yeah.
Oh, these nonprofits. I was like, do they even have land?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. So I went to the meeting. They were having them draw pictures of houses, put it up on the wall. Of course, being the person I am, I stood up. I said, who in this room has land that you're going to give to them?
yeah.
And they were like, oh, we don't. I said, don't have them draw houses.
Yeah.
What the heck are you doing?
Right.
Building pipe dreams for these people?
Right.
I was like, stop already.
Yeah.
Like, you guys want some type of grant out of this? I told Auntie, I was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I walked out and she was like, why is it so bad? I was like, this is not realistic.
Yeah.
Right.
We're not going to be building houses inside the boat harbor where there's no infrastructure, no wastewater, no water. I said, why don't you just go buy your own piece of land? And she was like, you think I can do that? I was like, I know you can do
You
that.
Yeah.
can.
Here's
Yeah.
how.
Yeah. And she was like, well, what do we got to do first? I was like, make a nonprofit so you can like have all your money in one place. She goes, that's going to take forever. I was like, no, show up at my house tonight. Let's handle this.
Yeah.
We handled it.
Yes,
we
that's
did
so
it.
cool.
And I like had to go on a trip the next day, but
Yeah.
by the next day they got the EIN. They got everything real fast, like within a week or so.
yeah.
They got it. They raised $1.5 million, bought their own piece of land.
So
And
cool.
like I went up there just last week and I was just amazed because they put in their own infrastructure, they're building houses, they got a CUP, but all of that to be said, if they can do it, what are we doing telling ourselves we cannot do
Yeah.
it?
100%.
Exactly.
We gotta start believing we can do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that belief, that'll take you so much farther in life than just your house.
Oh yeah.
You have a strong belief like that, ooh, that'll take you through tough times.
Right.
That'll help you to raise good children.
Yep.
So I just, it was not my doing, but I think it was me trying to explain to them that there was a potential they didn't see in themselves.
They didn't
Yes.
even know it was
And
a
I was
possibility.
like, forget all these people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, you have it inside of you. Let's go.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy for them because from there, she just took it. I mean,
I love that so much.
what's his Omar Pierre Omidyar's wife donated 500,000. She showed up at the blessing for the place and I didn't even know her. She's just wearing a hat.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, this is so cool. I'll write a check. Boom.
Boom.
You never know
Done.
who's watching, and a lot of times you only need that one person that can believe in you.
Right.
You know?
But you got to believe in
You
yourself.
gotta believe in yourself. That's the thing.
When people see that, they're like, ooh, I want to invest in this.
right.
You know what we need to do? We need to think of another word for investor. I think
Yes.
that's the problem.
That is the problem.
Because
That's
I
all
think
it comes
as we
down
use
to.
that word, it has so much stigma on
Yeah,
it, right?
Yes,
already.
already on
Right.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll think of a better
Okay.
word.
Yeah.
I like that.
Because I
Yeah.
think that's going to take us there. Even when we talk about homes, I always talk about building communities.
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You might be building a development, not me.
Right.
I'm building a community.
community,
Because
right.
that's where people care about each other.
I love
Yeah.
that.
That's where we build homes, where people
Yes.
live, and
Yes.
where
Yeah.
families thrive.
Yes.
Right.
Like, that's what we want.
I
Yeah.
agree wholeheartedly. And that's what Deals and Aloha is. It's a community
100%.
of abundance.
Yeah.
I love that so much. Okay, to wrap this up, because I know your time is super valuable. And like I said, we could talk about this forever.
All day.
Is who do you look up to? Like, who inspires you?
Well, I have awesome parents.
Yeah.
So I'll give them the shout out, you know.
Love
Yeah.
that.
My dad was the first Samoan judge in the United States, and I
No
didn't think it was a
way.
big deal. I was like 12
It's
when
a
he became a
huge
judge. He was
deal.
37, and I remember thinking like, what is this thing my dad does? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think later in life, I kind of saw that as like a you can buck the system moment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, I guess you don't have to be like everybody else, you know? So I
Right,
thought
right,
that,
right.
right? My mom, she also has her doctorate degree. So very academic in her pursuit of knowledge, which I definitely get a lot of that from her.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when I ran for office, she was like, oh my gosh, what about all your degrees?
yeah.
But I do think that, my parents and their work ethic really appealed to me. I really love people that work hard. And my parents have both like worked really hard. In fact, we bought a home in Hawaii in 1985. And so back then it wasn't even a thing living in Hawaii.
Yeah.
I guess it's a thing.
Another place.
It's
Yeah,
Now it's a thing.
now, yeah.
It was just like hey, we need to buy a home. My mom's dad helped to put a down payment, and we kind of built that home into what we have now, which is a gathering place, really,
Yeah.
for me
Yep.
and my brothers.
Love that.
Yep.
But when I got back from college, my dad immediately was like, "You guys got to look for a home," and I was like, "Are we kidding here?"
Yeah.
I was like, I just had a baby. I don't have a job. My husband is a police officer. Like, what are we talking about here?
Right.
He was like, "Start looking around, Andrea. It's time to buy a house." I was like, Dad, I don't think this is possible. Like, I teach piano on the side. I was like,
Yeah.
I like make $12 every half an hour.
Yeah.
So like we started looking. My cousin took us out to see country where we live in Waianae, and I don't know, immediately when we got there, we got this impression we were supposed to live there. We got it on a short sale. 2 months later, we closed.
Wow.
Bought it for $350,000 in 2010.
Wow.
But I say that because my parents have always had this vision of just like,
Yeah.
you can do anything.
Yeah. You
Like,
didn't
and-
even think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My dad didn't even flinch. He was
Yeah.
just like, hurry up and do it, Andrea.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
hurry up and get a real estate agent. I was
Yeah.
like, and do what?
Yeah.
Right.
He was like, go get a loan, get a house. I was like, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
I can relate to that so much because my parents ingrained that in me too. Like, you can do anything that you set out to do. And I think I get a lot of their work ethic from them too, because they were entrepreneurs, they hustled, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And every time I was like, I want to do this, my dad was always like, all right, let's do it. You know what I mean? Like, he never doubted,
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah.
We all need parents like that.
Yeah.
Seriously. Yeah.
Last question. What impact do you hope to leave with the audience?
I think you guys have a great energy. I think you guys have a strong vision and passion. I think if anyone watching this can feel it from all three of us, then we've done something good.
Yeah.
I think the idea of us leaving impressions in the world that we live in is super important.
Yeah.
Even the words that I speak when I'm at work, and I try to always come prepared. I always try to read ahead of time. I try to come like with my heart in what I'm doing. And so I hope that people understand that. It's like when you're passionate about something, you love something, you prepare yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when you come to perform, preparation is done already.
Yes.
Yeah.
You come and you perform.
You are
Right.
ready.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, that's what it looks like to be passionate about something and to build a legacy. Is it's not a one-day thing.
Yeah.
It's not an overnight thing. Like, I've had to progressively become better at this job that I never thought I was going to do.
Gonna do in the first
Yeah.
place. Yeah.
So I've had to progressively mold myself into like, okay, how can I be more knowledgeable? How can I understand law? Who the heck is this DPP person?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
What is chapter 18? So I do all these things because I'm like, okay, well, anything's possible. New content shouldn't be daunting. I just need to start to consume it. So I do hope that the people watching feel that, right?
Yes.
Is that
Totally.
like new content areas are not scary.
No.
Yeah.
That passion can be prepared for and executed in a really lovely and, presentable way. And I hope that they feel inspired to do it in their own life and for their families.
I love that. That was amazing.
Yeah. So cool.
I love your energy. I think we're on the same wavelength in a lot of ways. So I truly appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thank you
Thank
so
you for
much.
being here. I will not let you not communicate with me further. I
Yes.
will relentlessly follow up.
This is the beginning of a relationship.
wanna
feel
collaborate
like
about a
I
lot
feel
of
like there's a
things.
ton of things that we can collaborate
Yeah.
on.
Where can people find you?
Just, I have an Instagram, Andria Tupola. I do have some stuff on YouTube. I feel like the less I have, the better.
Yeah.
I know.
Like, oh my gosh, I'm managing too many pages.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get it.
But, you can email me, andriatupola@gmail.com. My office number is 808-768-5001. So there's lots of ways to get a hold of me. I feel like everyone in Waianae knows how to get a hold of me. But I definitely am here to serve, here to help. And if I can't help, I know where to go. I usually can point you the right direction, and I do hope that I can serve the people of Hawaii for years to come.
Love
I
that.
feel that. And
Yeah.
we hope so too. I want to help you do that.
Seriously.
All right. Thank you.
Right on.
Peace out.
Thank you so
everybody.
much. Choo.